Mic is on. Cool. Let's see. Do this. Cool. What? No, I want a chat. No, I want a chat. What's happening? Why is this not working? Why is this not working? Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. No, that is not what I. Did that work? Let's see if this worked now. Okay, there's chat. Cool. Okay, there's chat. Cool. Sweet. All right, what's up? Now that's figured out. Let's see. Today we're going to be stringing the Solinco Whiteout 305 V2, and we're going to be putting in Solinco Hyper-G round in there. I have not got to test Hyper-G round before, so I figured it might as well be good enough time to do it. What tension am I at? I am at 53. That's perfectly fine for this. Cool. All right. So, it's been a while since did a live stream. I thought I might as well do another one since I thought, well, it's time to restring a racket, so might as well do it again. Seemed to go over fairly well last time, so we're back. So if you have any questions or comments, or you just want to say hello, put it in the chat. Let me know you're here, and we'll go from there. Come on, string. Cool. All right. Yes. Q-Pick 22. Hey, Brandon, I played with the Aero VS, but my frames have gone quite soft. What rackets do you think I should check out apart from the Aero 98? I hope you had a good weekend. Q-Pick, thank you for the comment. And when you say that they've gone quite soft, are you just meaning that they don't that you're not getting the same feel out of them anymore, or are you just kind of saying that the frame overall is just something you're like, this doesn't seem to be like what I want anymore? Because if they were fine when you first got them, I'd say you're probably fine just to stick with the Aero 98, the new, just because it's the new version, and I really don't think they changed too much at all from it. But if you're wanting something completely different, then that's where I would be like, okay, let's actually see like what do you prefer with your play style, and what string are you using now to change the feel of it. But let's see. They don't play the same as it did 4 years ago. Too many. Yeah, that's probably a big factor of it. I'd say at that point, then you're probably safe to just, if you're feeling that they are a little different, probably just best to go and before you do buy it, just because technically it's a different racket, I would say if you can, give a demo to the Pure Aero 98. But overall, I'd say it's almost the exact same thing, and I would just get that. That's most likely the quick fix for it, and then you can get right back to playing. You have the racket be as stiff as it was when you first got the VSs, maybe just a tiny bit less stiff, just because it's new version, and most new versions, they're trying to help make sure that the rackets aren't as hard on the arm for people. But besides that, yeah, that's probably what I think would work best for you, just off the top of my head. Thank you for the question, and I hope you had a great weekend as well, Cupid. With Dunlops, depending on what Dunlop you tried, can you tell me which Dunlops you did try? Because there's one I'm thinking of that would probably be similar, but if you didn't try it, then I wouldn't tell you to go straight to it without trying it. The blue one. Okay. So the FX, I think that one's the 500 Tour. That one, I would say, is more like the Pure Drive 98, so it is going to be a little bit more powerful and a little bit more power focused than your VS is, especially with it being not a 16 by 20. I believe it's still a 16 by 19. So if you're wanting to try the more spin friendly one, I would look at the Dunlop SX 300 Tour, because that's also a 98 head size and a 16 by 19 string pattern and Dunlop spin racket. Whereas if you do the FX 500 Tour being the 98 and the power racket, you definitely have a lot more power, but you don't have nearly as much spin. And both of these are going to have a little bit less control to them, just because they don't have the 16 by 19 string pattern like your Aero VS does, and they're just not Bablat, so they're easier on the arm regardless. So if you are thinking of Dunlop, I would probably try the SX300 Tour just to see what you think, as it's the most similar, and then go from there. Yeah, like Ernest has said, the SX300 Tour is the 98, but no, they told me the yellow ones weren't as similar because of the profile being much thicker. It's like, no, the SX is still overall considered to be the most similar Dunlop to the Aero VS, just because it's still within the spin frame, well, the spin line. So I don't know who told you that, but I would argue the SX, the yellow one, is going to be much more comparable to what you're using than the blue one is that you did use. Yeah. Yeah. I would say if you get the chance, demo the SX 300 Tour, just so that way you can get the actual results for yourself to see what you think about it. And then also, if you can, demo against it the Pure Aero 98, just to see of the difference, because you may love the Dunlop, it may work great, but if you just prefer the Babolat feel from the frame, then just go with them. There's not really anything like wrong with either, just whichever one you like the most. But it's cool that your pro shop will let you demo, because that's one of the biggest things for people to actually get out of a racket, is to play with it after they know what they want or what they're looking for. Come on, machine. Thank you. I think SX series probably cheapest to spin. Yeah, right now the SX Ernest, yeah, right now Chills of My Life, what's up? Yeah, right now the old SXs, the all yellow ones that kind of look like bananas, they're probably going to be the most inexpensive, just because the new version of it came out. And then overall, I personally think Dunlop is a very underrated brand. I don't think as many people give it the time of day or the credit that it is due, because I will admit they've had a few mess ups here and there with some of their rackets, and I've also been told that from the Dunlop reps when they came into the place that I worked at. They understood the mistakes that they made. Now they've course corrected, and they do make very nice rackets, but they just aren't as well recognized or known anymore compared to what they used to be. So that's one of the other big reasons I think that not as many people would use them or know about them. But no, I think Dunlop's great, but I will never say to have my overall personal opinion on brands affect what you choose, just because you got to play with it. You got to like it. So I would demo the SX300 Tour against a Puro VS for you, Cupic, and then just go from there. Chills My Life. I got a question. Can you talk about synthetic shape strings, whether it's good to be on the main or cross? I know synthetic or multi are good on cross, but wonder about shape synthetic. Overall, I don't think I've really ever seen a shaped synthetic gut. Most of the time they are just round, because they're trying to be a little bit more arm friendly. But what synthetic gut are you talking about that is going to be shaped? Let's do do I like anime? Yes. Now I can't say that I watch it all the time, just because I don't really watch much of TV or anything. But yes, I do like anime. I thought it was very cool. Let me phrase it. I like it a lot. Not a huge diehard fan of anything too particular, but I would say overall, I liked it enough that when I was in high school, since my high school offered Japanese as a foreign language, I took that for 3 years rather than Spanish or French, because I was like, Japanese seems cooler and I like anime. So, yeah, I'd say I like it. Says it produces more topspin. The synthetic shape string says it produces more topspin. So, with that, between synthetic gut and multi-filament, you can make the argument that synthetic gut does produce a little bit more topspin than multis, just because multi-filaments isn't really designed to help you with that as much. So I can see that, but overall, I would say that synthetic gut is probably going to be less playable in the long term than multi-filament is, just because of how just from my personal experience, I've never really got synthetic gut to last very long. It just kind of gets put into a racket for people to test how the racket plays. It's not real. I've never noticed it to help too much with spin or power or control or anything. It's just always kind of been in there. And then from there, depending on what you liked about it, I would either tell people to go to polyester, multi-filament, or if they just like that, just to stick with it, because it's like, if you like it and it's the cheapest one, if it works out for you, great, just use that. But I would say synthetic gut is like the starting or the basis point, and then you branch off into like polyester or multi-filament. Was synthetic shape? Like I mentioned, I'm not exactly sure if they even make a synthetic shape, but I would assume it's just like a shaped poly or anything, to where, like, because it has the edges to it, it is going to give it a little bit more bite and a little bit more access to spin. But overall, I can't say I've seen a lot of sided polys or anything. It just never has come up in that I've seen. But let's see. Cupic. My favorite show. If I'm going to assume you're referencing to what's my favorite anime, I would say that is a very great question. I don't know if I have a set favorite, but as of lately, the one that's probably been on my mind the most, just because I watched it all the time growing up, and I'm debating whether or not to get Crunchyroll to just start watching it because I haven't fully seen it. I've just seen a lot of clips of it. Is Dragon Ball Super. Now, that's just me saying the Dragon Ball line in general. I do very much enjoy Dragon Ball. I've liked that show for many years, but I have not watched Super. I have not watched Hero. I haven't watched Superhero. I haven't watched the many of the more recent, well, not even recent, but a lot of the newer movies past like the Z saga. So that's probably the biggest one that I watch. And then I liked Assassination Classroom when I watched that, as well as, what was another one? I haven't seen a lot of the like really big ones that are extremely long, like Naruto or Bleach or One Piece or anything like that. But other than that, I don't know. Those seem to be the two that always kind of stick out. Oh, there was another one. I think I only saw the first season of it, but it was called Blue Exorcist. I watched that for a bit. I enjoyed it. Never watched the second season because I didn't know it had come out till I didn't have Netflix anymore, because I was just sharing an account with someone, and then never watched season 2, as well as there was another one that just came into my head. I don't remember what it was. Oh, Hunter x Hunter. That one I thought was really cool, but again, same thing with that one. I never got to finish it, so it's cool, but I would have to probably go back and rewatch a bit of it from where I left off in order to regain like where I am in the show or where I was and re-understand what's happening. Let's see. See you use a starting clamp. I like how poly round shape. Cupic, the fact that you bought a reel of Dunlop Explosive Spin for $40 the other day is incredible. That's amazing. Where did you find that? And Dragon Ball is pretty meh after DBZ. From what I've heard, that seems to be almost like the general consensus. But I don't know. Just depends. I still would say I would like to watch it just because I am a fan of the series overall, but I don't know. We'll see. That is Hyper G. Have you ever hybrid with Singa? Hunter x Hunter is a go. Start clamping your tool tray. FJ Rob 4. Are you, when you say that I didn't use a starting clamp, are you talking about when I started the mains? Is that what you're in reference to? because I'm using the starting clamp right now. And then recommend you watch Erased. It's 12 episodes, really good. What's the premise? What's the premise of it? I have not heard of Erased. Oh wait, and then Hunter. Is that Hyper G? And then that is Hyper G. Have you ever come? Chills of my life. That is Hyper G. Have you ever hybrid with multi or sin cross played comfortably? I have not hybrided Hyper G, and this is also a Hyper G round. So this is the Hyper G without sides to it. So it should arguably be a little bit easier on the arm, but also a little bit less spin, as well as a little bit more powerful too. The thing with hybriding Hyper G and other shaped polys is that if you are putting a very shaped or very harsh poly against a softer multi or a softer synthetic gut, then you can sometimes cause the string to start start shredding or tearing it as you're starting to weave and pull it through to tension it. So that's where you have to be careful, because when I was at work the other day, one of our stringers, he had to string a hybrid that was Yonex Polytor Drive and Yonex Polytor Rexus. And so at that point, he was on an electronic machine, which I do not have because those things are expensive. But he had to put the tensioner for how fast this is going to pull tension down to its lowest setting possible. And even still, when he was stringing the actual crosses with the Rexus, as soon as he got down here towards the bottom to finish off the mains, that thing was starting to shred very, very quickly. So it's not even that he was trying to shred it. It's just the fact that because the shape of Polytor Drive and the combination of how soft the Rexus, I want to say it was Rexus, I don't remember which Rexus it was, but one of the Rexus that he was using from Yonex, because of how soft it was in Polytor Drive sides, it was just tearing through the string a little bit, even when he took every single precaution he could to help prevent that. And I was like, dang. So string wise, the shaped Hyper G with a softer multi-filament or sin gut, even if it's round, it is going to be a little bit more harsh on the softer string. But playability wise, the softer string is going to loosen up some of the harshness of the Hyper G to make it a little bit easier on your arm. And then you still have overall good spin, especially if you have the Hyper G in the mains. And then you can just pretty much go from there. But it is probably going to break quicker on you than what you think, just because it's a hybrid. Can't tell you anything. It's mystery and crime solving. What other spin rackets is underrated than Dunlop? Ernest, great question. I would say we're probably for underrated spin rackets. I would say probably my biggest one is the Burn 100 FST. I much prefer that over the Wilson Shift right now, just in terms of what Wilson's spin racket was or should be. Just because not only is it a better price point, but I've hit with both of them, and I just preferred the 18x16 string pattern of the Burn over the Shift, as well as the Shift is a 99 head size, which I know it's 1 square inch difference, but overall, to me, the 100 just felt like it did better with the burn. And yeah, that's probably what I would say is the most underrated spin racket. And then besides that, I mean, the head extreme, everyone pretty much knows. Like I already talked about Dunlop. Besides that, Arrow, everyone knows. The Diadem Axis is an interesting one just because that's technically, I think, the newest spin frame to come out in a while, which it does well. It's almost modeled entirely after the Pure Arrow from what I saw and what I felt playing with it. But overall, I would say that I think I would just need to try a different string in the Axis to really tell, because the string I used, Diadem Solstice Power, that string with that racket, it had a ton of great spin, but I don't know fully if it was just the Axis or if it was the actual Diadem racket providing a lot of that extra spin. So overall, I'd say the most underrated one right now is probably the Burn. Just the Burn line in general, as long as it has that S string pattern, even though it breaks string a lot quicker, just because of that too, you're going to get a lot more spin than what you think, and it's not nearly as expensive as most of the other high end or like more commonly known spin rackets like Babolat, Head, and Yonex. The VCore 100 is great, but it's not really underrated, so that's why I didn't really mention it overall. Oh yeah, what you explain well. Oh, thanks, Chills. The shift is so weird. Oh yeah, what's the best tension for the shift 99? I use at 55, 57, hybrid, poly, main, and multi-cross. But what do you think it's best at? So with that, what tension is best for the shift? It really just depends on what you're trying to solve for. Because if you're trying to go for control with the shift and just have it do the spin for you, then that's where I think you can get away with using that 55, 57 tension. I think is 55, 57 hybrid. But if you're trying to maximize for this spin that the shift can bring, then I would say you're probably going to want to look to, if you're still going to use the hybrid, keeping the poly around like a low 50, maybe, just from where you're at, start around 52 or 53, just to give you a easy time to actually like get adjusted, and only start with a small tension difference, just so you're not going completely in a different direction to where you don't know if it's completely unplayable for you. But overall, I think the shift does well, especially if it has just a full bed of poly in it rather than the multi-filament. But that's if your arm feels comfortable enough to actually do that. I would say if you're using a polyester hybrid and a multi-filament with a multi-filament cross, then I would just start lowering your tension down if you are unhappy with where you're at, just to see what you think about that. But again, it just comes back to, what are you trying to solve for? Like, what are you wanting to get more help from changing your tension or even changing your string that you aren't getting currently? Because without knowing that answer, you can't really go where you want to, because you don't know where you're trying to go. It's like trying to drive a car to someplace you've never been, but you don't have directions, and you don't use a GPS, and you can't use a map because you don't know where you're trying to go. You're just driving aimlessly, which you can't ever get to anywhere if you don't know where you're trying to go. But yeah, that's what I would say so far, just about the shift. But overall, as long as you have what's becoming more and more standard of like a semi-Western to Western forehand grip, when you're playing with the shift, I think it does well for that. For me though, I personally tend to have more of a Eastern forehand or maybe semi-Eastern, but because of that, when I used the shift and I was trying it, I did have to adjust my game to the racket, whereas if I didn't and I just hit the ball with the shift pretty flat to try and just like power through it, it felt to me almost as stiff, if not a little bit stiffer than an actual pure drive did. So with that, I personally was like, this racket ain't for me. It does well for some people, and there, darn it, I started on the wrong side again. Anyway, it's my racket. But it does well for me if I remember to actually use the more semi-Western grip. But overall, I'd rather not have to change my entire swing path and my entire stroke to accommodate a racket. So that's where the shift didn't do too well for myself, but it can do well for other people. Stiffness for the burn 100S is in the 70s. Yeah, this is for a player that I don't know either and just chose a good tension for the racket. It's gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. The burn man. I gotta say, it's not for everyone, but I liked it. That's where I would say it is more underrated. Ta-da! Cool. Good. All right. Yeah. So Chills, are you a stringer too then? Are you a stringer too then, or did they come into a place you worked and you just chose attention for them? If you're choosing to ask about that tension and shift. Come on. All right, I'm going to try and pronounce this, and if I get it wrong, I'm sorry, but tell me how to say it phonetically after I say it, but I'm going to say Chiron or Chiron. Hey, Brody, hope you're well. I play with the new E-Zone Blast Blue 98 Tour with Torbite 50 mains and Polytour Pro 4-day on cross. You reckon the Solinco machine, Mach 10, I'm assuming, goes better with E-Zone Tour? Thanks. With the E-Zone Tour, and you're using Torbite and Polytour Pro on the cross. What are you trying to accomplish here? Why do you want to try Mach 10? Are you looking for a new setup? Do you want more help with something? But like, what are you trying to find? Because if you're just I don't necessarily know what you're asking help for, so I can't necessarily answer that question how I would say you probably want it answered that can actually help you. Best strings. Let's see. Yeah, I have a string. My tension is 55-57 hybrid. Nice. Vocal, in my opinion, it's underrated. They make decent rackets and was the best spin string. Yes, Vocal is underrated. I didn't necessarily mention them, but yes, Vocal does very well. With spin rackets, technically I think like the Vostra V8 is a 16 by 18, so it's a little bit more spin friendly. But overall, I haven't had any like major Volkl rackets stick out to me in terms of, excuse me, in terms of overall spin capability. But besides that, what are the best spin strings out right now? Well, that's a very subjective question, but in my opinion, some of the best spin strings out currently is going to be, well, for the price point, it's at probably Hyper G, regular Hyper G, not Hyper G round, just because it has the sides to it, and I think that does well. If we're also going for price-wise, I want to say like regular Volkl Cyclone tends to do very nicely, just because it's about less than $10 typically per pack, and you have a lot of sides to it. It's almost shaped like a gear, and it'll help generate a lot of spin, and you're not having to spend an extreme amount of money on to keep restringing or just to use the string in general. So I like Cyclone overall. I personally don't use it just because I am not that, I don't need that much spin. I'm more of a flat ball strike, so Cyclone and me will fight sometimes if I'm using him, but it does very well for spin. Then there is I don't know. I like Polytour Rev. I liked Polytour Rev more than I liked RPM Blast for spin. Plus, Polytour Rev had a little bit better feel to it for me than RPM Blast did. RPM Blast kind of seemed a little bit dead overall. But yeah, that's probably what I would say. That's probably what I would say between those. And then trying to think of a rough string that would be out there. Potential. I don't know. Those three come to mind first, and then you can always adjust from there. But Head Lynx Tour. Lynx Tour is a personal favorite of mine. 6-sided, a little bit stiffer, and so a little bit more powerful for me, but still did well even when I wanted to flatten the ball out. So I personally like Lynx Tour, but I tend to prefer, excuse me, I tend to prefer Lynx Tour in a 17 gauge. So 16 gauge might be a little bit too thick and a little bit too harsh at times. So that's just me though. Let's see. Cool. Come on. Sweet. I also know that synthetic multi-gut are at the 50-60 range, polys are 45-55 range, and string hybrid with syngut, multi-gut are always 2 pound higher than poly. Yeah, that's typically what you see, Chills. That's usually what I'll try and do if I'm doing a poly hybrid with a synthetic gut, multi-filament, or a natural gut. Is I'll keep the poly at a lower tension, and then I'll put the softer string at a higher one just to kind of rein it in, so it's not like a trampoline for whoever I'm talking to when they actually get it and they play with it. Then Mach 10 color matches the racket, and I heard it's powerful strings, so I thought I would try. I'm more of a flat player. Any strings you think goes well on E-Zone? Many thanks. If you're more of a flat ball strike, then you can use Mach 10, but have you ever tried a full set of Polytour Pro? Kieran, because that may be where you start to look, just because yes, Mach 10 is very powerful, but it also has the sides to it, so it is going to be more spin friendly. And if you have more of a flat ball strike like me, that may not necessarily be something that you prefer. I think it's definitely worth a try if you're interested, just because try it out, see what you think. But overall, I think you might be a little bit better with a full bed of just a circular poly, as long as your arm is okay with that. If your arm is not okay with that, don't do that. But because you have a circular poly and a full bed, rather than having Torbite in your racket as well, I think you might be able to get away with it. Now, granted, I obviously do not know you, and so I can't speak to that fully, but maybe start with Polytour Pro as a full set, just because you know you like it in your hybrid, so you can see how you'd like it as a full bed. And then potentially after that, I'm personally a fan of also another round string, Technofiber Ice Code. That one to me, with it being circular, has a lot of nice feel, nice power, good spin, but not too much to where it's gonna overpower you or anything. But I think it does well overall. So I just like putting people into Ice Code if they are if they want a round poly that's going to be a little bit easier to get used to and just play well. That's what I've tended to find works, and it has a little bit more feel to it, so you can really tell where you're hitting the ball on the racket. But besides that, if you want a shaped string, yeah, probably try Mach 10 just to see what you think. But overall, whatever you prefer. I would maybe start with the what is it? What did I say? Start with Polytour Pro as a full bed first, and then and then if you want to try Mach 10, go for it. But if not, if you want to throw the random one out there, try Ice Code. I I tend to like it. It's something to just go on, see what you think. And you can always cut it out. It's not like it's stuck in there forever. What is a spin racket? It's a spin friendly racket again from Vocal Ernest. I think if I were to say one, I think it's the Vostra V8. If I remember correctly from when I demoed it or just play tested it, I want to say that was a 16 by 18 string pattern, so a little bit more open, so a little bit more power and a little bit more spin. But I may be wrong that there's a more spin friendly one, just because the Vostra line overall, well, technically I am wrong because I'm not counting the bigger head sizes, but overall as a racket comparable to the Pure Aero and the Dunlop and the V-Core and the Extreme, I would say I think it's the Vostra V8 is the more spin power friendly focused one compared to anything else. Yeah, I would say that's probably the one I would go with. Rough guess. Whoa. Oh wait. Hold on. Cool. Now I can cut it. Sweet. Excuse me. Cool. Now I'm just finishing up, making sure I did everything correctly. Alright, cool. Whoa! I hit the thing right next to me. Alright. We're ready to go. Hyper G round, 16 gauge, at 53 pounds in the Whiteout V2. We're going to have fun with it. Not today, but we'll have fun with it at some point. Cheers. Cheers, Kiran. Let's see. Yes, I've played with Polytour Pro many times. I don't mind it. Never tried Tecnifiber strings ever, so might give that a try someday. Yeah, man. I like Tecnifiber strings overall. I'd say Ice Code's probably the one I've played with the most and that I've used the most or given out the most, besides, say, like X1 Biphase. If someone is wanting a little bit more of a softer, easier on the arm multi. But yeah, Ice Code, because it comes in 16 gauge, 17 gauge, and 18 gauge, you have quite a range of options to choose from, and then you can just see which one works best, and works better for your game. But I would say try that as well as try Mach 10. See what you think, and then let me know what you think, because I'd be curious, especially if you end up liking the Mach 10 more, just because, like you said, you have more of a flat ball strike. I'd be curious if the amount of spin you get off of Mach 10 feels very nice compared to just the amount of control and the amount of power you get from actually playing and stringing with like the Polytour Pro full bed or the Ice Code full bed. Okay? Or maybe, if you're still here, I don't know if you are yet, maybe you do Mach 10 in the main, Polytour Pro in the cross. Maybe. Hear me out. You just try it. Maybe. It's your decision. You figure it out. Figure out what you want to do. Figure it out. Cool. How's the Slinko rackets? Ernest, Slinko, I gotta say, for Slinko's first edition, when they made rackets, the regular whiteout and the regular blackout, they did pretty good in terms of how they play and how they feel, especially with them having foam in the actual racket itself to try and make it a little bit more dampened. I think they had a nice thing going. They didn't really change an extreme amount to the whiteout V2. I know that they did change the feel up a little bit. So some people still prefer the V1. I have a friend of mine that he uses the Slinko Whiteout V1 XTC, or the extended version of it. He has both the 27.5 and the 28. And he's tried and demoed this V2, not necessarily mine, but just others, for a little bit. And he's just like, I don't know, man. I just can't get into it. And I was like, cool, that's completely fine. You can just get a more inexpensive racket because you don't have to pay as much since it's V1. So not bad. But with the blackout and the whiteout, I think they did well overall. The blackout being more like a Babolat Pure Drive, especially with the stiffness of it, and then but the foam in there, as well as the dampening tech to just see and kind of give you a little bit more of an easier on the arm feel. I think it does well. And I think that they're underrated as well, but people just don't know about them because it's still version 1, version 2. They mainly know Slinko for this bright neon green string here that I put in. That's just called regular Hyper G, not Hyper G round. But they do well. I've never had a single complaint out of these. And then besides that, yeah, they just did a nice job, both from V1 and now V2 with the whiteout. Hopefully the blackout V2 is coming out soon, because that'll be interesting to see what they do with that, if it is. And yeah, they do nice. It's called Baby Step. Do you still watch anime? Can I recommend you an anime tennis for you, bro? It's called Baby Step Tennis Anime. How do you spin the racket like that? Oh no, I hit it on my machine. But What is baby step? Here. The thing I keep looking at over here is my computer, so I can actually talk to you all, which has the chat on it. So let me see real quick. I'm going to type it in here so that way it's still in my computer and I can look at it later. Okay. Baby steps anime. Okay. See, I didn't know that was a thing. I had heard of the Prince of Tennis before. I think I'd seen like an episode or two of that, but I never watched it fully just because I didn't have any way to watch it. I just heard about it, and I think I might have bootlegged it a little off of YouTube for a little bit, and then I was just like, I'm bored. But Baby Step, interesting one to look at. I will look into it. And this one is more reality. Okay, gotcha. And then spinning the racket, that just depends on actually down here in the throat whether or not it is going to be nice to spin. Some rackets are better than others, but I really just like start here to where it's just on my pointer finger. Start from up here now because you know it's going, and then just start rotating it. And then the faster you rotate your hand, the faster the racket goes. And then you just stop moving in order to slow it down. Normally I prefer very high pitch ping sounds with strings and not thud muted sounds. Never play with dampener. Love the sound of my Pro Snap with gut and Torbite. Many thanks for suggesting. Yeah, man. Glad to give the suggestion. If you like the ping, I think you can just probably go a little bit tighter in tension with some of these, but yeah. The poly in there is going to be what's going to give you that. The poly is going to give you the sound, so try out a few combos, see what you like, see what you think. Get back to me, let me know, and we'll go from there. We can usually figure something out. I'm afraid to drop my racket. You will drop your racket. So I would practice with a racket that is old and you don't necessarily care about as much. Because I've dropped, not this one, but I've dropped other rackets plenty of times doing this. However, especially if you practice on carpet, it's a lot easier on the racket and you don't have to worry about it as much as if you do where I am, to where I'm on concrete, and that would be very, very bad. Not fun, but you can figure it out. I have faith in you. It won't take you that long, especially if you find an old racket to do it with. All right. Cool. Cool. All right then, all. Well, the racket is done, so I'm probably going to get on out of here. Thank you all for showing up and talking with me. It was a great pleasure actually getting to talk with you again. Chills, thanks for coming back. I know you did. And Ernest, thank you for commenting. Kiran, again, I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you for coming out. It was great talking with you through this and through chat. Hopefully we can do it again next time when I need to restring another racket. Potentially this one right here. I need to figure out what to put in this. But I also need to figure out what in the world racket I need to play with, so that way I can actually get better right now instead of continuing to play with a bunch of different rackets and then messing up my game because I have to keep switching every so often, or like every 20 minutes, and I have to switch my form, my technique, and get used to a whole new feel of it. That's where I'm going with right now. I have one option I think I'm going to go with just for a while. I don't know if I'll keep the string that's in it because it's strung up right now, but I may finally just bite the bullet, buy the racket, and then just play with that for a little bit while still like testing here and there with some of the other things, just to keep the stuff go and keep myself up to date and know what's happening. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. But like I said, Ragged is done. I think I have answered all the questions. So yeah, thank you all for coming out. If you're watching this after, thank you for watching. Very appreciated. And as always, take care.